Hello, everybody. I welcome you to The Power of the Heart, Resilience Building Inside Out. My name is Suzanne von Meinfeld. I'm very happy to be here in this online conference, and I'm enjoying to share tools from the heart with you. And I start by saying a few things about myself so that you know who I am. My name is Suzanne von Meinfeld. I'm a body-oriented psychotherapist and also Hakomi teacher. Hakomi is a somatic mindfulness approach to psychotherapy. And I work about 20 years in the field, have worked for about 10 years in nonprofit agencies and for 20 years in private practice. And the topic of resilience has been very much in the focus of my work for the last 12 years. It has started early on when I worked in a big nonprofit women counseling agency. I worked with a lot of women with severe stress and trauma in their background. And I have found early on that when we reconnect people to their resources inside that are innate in us, mainly to the resources of our heart, then the healing is suddenly deepening and quickening, and very difficult issues in life start to calm down and settle, and some more beautiful flow of life comes through from the inside out. I would say that that was the beginning of my interest in resources, finding resilience in all of us, including also my own story. I had quite some trauma to integrate from childhood and young adult life. And I found that despite all the different therapies I did to heal my own trauma, that only when I started to awaken to my heart and be more aware of the resources of my heart and its beautiful qualities and the flow of my heart, that then my healing started to blossom. You could almost say that I started to blossom and the healing started to exponentially grow. So it's also from my own healing journey that I really believe in the power of the heart. And I also want to share that, I did a lot of trauma training. I'm trained in somatic experiencing. And within the trauma work that I do with clients, I have again focused more on post-traumatic healing, because I'm always so interested in the holistic and the wholesomeness that resides within all of us, despite any kind of stress or wounding or experience that we go through. And while I focus more on post-traumatic growth, and I would almost call it mid-traumatic growth, which means that we access resources and growth while we are in challenging situation, while, for example, people go through a divorce or a severe separation, while people have lost someone, maybe through death. I often work also in bereavement with clients. It can be just really, really wonderful to find this mid-traumatic growth, find that resource inside that sustains us and that is always available underneath what else is going on. Last thing I would like to share about me is that together with my husband Ernst, we have developed a very innovative self-coaching tool called the Immediate Shift, in which we show people in Europe and in Canada how to shift within 3 to 4 minutes into their heart, into their body's resources, and into a balanced state of being. Very much to do with what you will hear today in this presentation. And my husband is, by the way, here opposite of me. Hi, Ernst. He will later be my participant to do the practice with, so that you have a better sense of how to do the practice that I will show you. Okay, so this is about my person, so that you have a little sense of who I am. Maybe just one little addition. I came to the HeartMath Institute about 10 years ago, when I was shifting my work so much to the heart and to the resources that are within our own heart. And so I was always searching the web for who else is including the heart in their work. And that's where I came across the HeartMath Institute, and was very excited to see that they had many, many years, almost 30 years now, of scientific backup for proving that to live from our heart and to access our heart is actually bringing our whole system into coherence and well-being. So this lecture will be mainly influenced by the heart mass. I'm a coach with them, a trainer with them, and let's dive in. As I was preparing this lecture, which is very unusual to do this on a Zoom call without seeing you, I was wondering who are the people I will speak to. And I was imagining that many of you, if not most of you, would be healthcare practitioners, maybe therapists like me, maybe nurses, maybe social workers, or anything alike. And I was wondering what motivates you to be part of this resilience conference. And my imagination took me to maybe 2 different areas in which you are interested. One might be your professional life, indeed, where being in a healthcare profession, it can be very stressful and draining. So that you look for how can I access deeper resources to have capacity and expanded capacity. And the other might be your personal life. And I think the 2 are often very merging together and are actually not so separate, because we show up in our work with clients as who we are and how we sustain our own regulated system. So in times of COVID-19, of course, it's very timely that we give now this conference about resilience. And as a personal human being, I could imagine that you, like so many of us, are also in a low grade or higher grade level of stress, so that consciously accessing resilience can be very important for you and us in our personal life. And then in your professional life, I can imagine that you want to build more capacity to not only sit in a better place with your clients, but also to have more capacity to deal with all the many things that you have to take care of in one day. And then I could imagine that you would like to also prevent burnout and compassion fatigue, which can so easily be part of our very caring hearts and our wish to help others. And that you might also want to learn some tools to share with your clients. And all of the above is very much included in this lecture. So let's begin. I will now put a PowerPoint into the screen. So I will disappear into a little screen on the right corner so that you can see the slides that I prepared for you. Enjoy. So the title of my presentation, as I said earlier, is Resilience Inside Out, the Power of Our Heart. Okay, there it is. So this lecture will be about the resilience through accessing our heart's power, your heart's power. And we will talk about a few points that I have summarized here so that you have a preview of what will happen during this presentation. We will talk about how resilience is defined by the Heart Mass Institute. We will talk about heart-brain communication and coherence. And we will talk about resetting your system to coherence and building that resilience inside out. We will talk about depleting and renewing emotions and our energy flow. And we will learn some simple and effective heart mass tools to build and sustain resilience and access our heart's intelligence. What is kind of the key moment of everything I will be sharing with you is that actually we have the power of choice in every given moment in our life. Often it doesn't seem to us like this because we feel like thoughts and emotions are just randomly appearing in our system. And that is on one level true, but actually modern neuroplasticity of the brain and heart-brain science has found out that we have a lot more influence than we think. And this influence we will now benefit from to build your resilience. So I will bring your awareness to how to be every given moment aware of your choice. We will shift to the heart, and we will talk about the nurturing heart qualities. We will talk about shifting our attitude and our way of being and doing once we live from our heart. And then we will just enjoy being in our heart and building a new baseline from which we have more capacity. This new baseline can be called heart-based living. And what you will discover is how much we are able to come to rest in our heart, and how then the heart qualities that are inherent are replenishing us, are restoring us, renewing us, and so that we have a way more ease of living and an ease in our workday. Qualities of heart mean things like calm, inner peace, quietude, stillness, warmth, kindness, connection to ourselves and to others, to nature, to our whole environment, compassion, nurture us and others. So there is an inherent nurture in our heart that I will invite you to come in touch with. We will access deeper resources, and all of this has not only the physiological benefit of resilience that we will feel in our nervous system and in our sense of well-being, we will also realize that this is the entry to awaken to our true self. As in every spiritual tradition, it is known that the entry to our true self is through the heart, and the HeartMath Institute has scientifically backed up this knowledge. So they have made a lot of experiments around finding out that we can access a deeper intelligence and a higher level of consciousness by accessing our heart. By applying these little HeartMath tools, we will retrain our brain and nervous system to balance, to well-being, and have access more and more to this higher level of consciousness that our culture, our society so urgently needs. I think in times of COVID-19, it has become aware to many people that it's time to raise our consciousness, raise our frequency to something that is more connected, more sustainable, and more wholesome. So let's talk for a few moments about resilience. You see here on this picture already that it's like we are looking at it from the HeartMath perspective. We are looking at resilience as an energy management. So you see here a battery charger, and you see on the left it's urgently needing to be recharged, and then there's low energy and there's fully charged energy. So we will look at resilience from an energy managing perspective. The definition from the HeartMath Institute for resilience is that it is the capacity to prepare for, recover from, and adapt in the face of stress, challenge, or adversity. What is so special about this definition and the whole way that HeartMath approaches resilience building is that normally we hear more resilience is the ability to bounce back, which means that after we had a stressful event or something that was challenging us, we focus on how can I bounce back to a balanced system. The innovative approach from HeartMath is here that we do not just bounce back, we also focus on preparing for challenge and adapt in the middle of stress. That's a little bit what I meant earlier with mid-traumatic growth, the term that I came up with to explain it's not just after trauma, but during difficult, stressful times that we can build resilience and access resilience. So you see here, adapt in the face of stress, challenge, or adversity, which means that during, how do I go back, Ernst? Sorry, now I can't go back anymore here. My apology, this is all very new technology for me. Let me do, I was here, thank you. Here we go. Just to focus again that it's during the event, and then to recover from is after. And we can learn to build our resilience capacity by sustaining our energy. So this presentation will be much focused on how can we sustain our energy throughout the day, throughout the weeks, throughout our life. Let's go to the different domains of resilience, because we have actually different areas of resilience. As you see here in this diagram, you see that there is a physical aspect of resilience, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. And only where these four overlap do we come into a coherent system. We hear later more about what coherence is. Right now, it's enough to just know to come into an optimal alignment of our whole system. It's relevant to increase our resilience in those different 4 domains. Physical flexibility means that we have a level of endurance, means we have a certain strength. So that would include exercising so that we have that endurance. Mental flexibility has a lot to do with attention span, our ability to focus, and to be flexible in holding different points of views and including different perspectives. Emotional flexibility means that we have a more positive outlook on things. And the major thing is self-regulation, a word that is very, very frequently used in our times because we are all in so many challenges and multitasking, and modern life is just full of stressors. So to self-regulate is, in my opinion, the really foundational aspect of resilience building. And it's also what all this presentation is about. How can we self-regulate our emotional states? And then, of course, the spiritual aspect of resilience is important. Not only our commitment to values and coming more from our values, but also that we have the tolerance for others in regards to their beliefs, their values, and also, as we live here in Canada in a quite multicultural society, to really include completely different cultures and perspectives in people. And the more we have all these 4 domains activated in a really energized way, the more resilient we will feel. Spirituality also includes that we live more from our heart, because as I said earlier, the heart is the entry to everything deeper in our consciousness, everything higher, the entry to our true self, and to what many people would call the soul or our inner being. So of course, that is part of the spiritual domain of resilience. Okay, then we want to see, as I said earlier, what it looks like that we are actually an energy system. So we want to look at what drains our energy and what renews our energy. Every moment we are giving out energy, and it can be very supportive to find a conscious relationship with how much energy we give out and how much energy we are able to renew inside. So we can learn to build our resilience capacity and sustain a good level of energy through the HeartMath tools that I will share with you. Energy balance means that we have constant energy expenditures, and without balancing this with adequate rest and recovery, there's no way we wouldn't end up in burnout, we would make errors, we will have health challenges, and our performance will diminish. And of course, also our relationships will suffer, and all the interrelational domains would have negative outcome if we don't balance our energy. I want to look for a moment at your work-related stressors, your potential work-related stressors, because I'm aware that many of you will come more from a professional perspective. So let's look through this. There are like long work hours. There might be financial stress and uncertainty, mainly right now in the COVID-19 times. You might then end up with sleep disruption, which results again in fatigue. There might be emotional danger, right? There can just be emotional triggers all over a workday. There might come unexpected change, as we are now all confronted with again through the pandemic. And there might be mental emotional turmoil, communication issues, and sometimes even exposure to extreme temperatures or extreme environments. So all of these are factors that may throw our energy out of balance, and we will soon see what we can do about this. So HeartMath, the whole HeartMath system, including the tools that I will show you a few of, but also the whole background science and theory, is an intelligent energy management. So our resilience in this view is actually grounded in an intelligent management of our energy, and that we any moment are aware if we are spending or even wasting energy, or if we are right now renewing and restoring and building again energy. It's actually a very simple and alive concept to look at, and it makes it easy during the day and nights to be aware of where you are with your resilience. Okay, so maybe I want to add just for you to have a little change. I want to be again in the big picture because I think to just look at slides is maybe a little bit tiring for you. So I want to just say something more freely spoken about what I know about living from the heart. So we are actually designed to live in resonance with our heart qualities. Our body, mind, spirit system is designed to live in alignment with our heart qualities. But we have all through our conditioning as children, through wounding, through traumata, through societal influences, we have all been kind of disconnected from this open and soft heart area. And so we are very vulnerable to being hijacked by our mental processes, by our thoughts, by charged emotion, negative emotions, reactivity. It's just very common. And we say often it's part of the human conditioning right now to be hijacked into an autopilot mode where we no longer have access to our beautiful heart's resources. I find that very relevant to say because the HeartMath tools work so well, because the moment we notice that we're kind of hijacked, kind of taken into a lower vibration, into a negative charge, into stress, that's the moment where we can make sure we access our heart again and provide that inside out flow to our whole system. It's actually not us providing it, our heart and our inner being provides that flow, but by us relating to our heart and opening there, it comes into flow and it's available to nurture us and to balance us. Let's continue with the slides. We want to now talk about the nature of emotions. Emotions are energy in motion. So again, we have the aspect of energy, which I talked about earlier, energy management. So a big factor of our well-being and our inner stress level is actually what kind of emotional tone are we in moment to moment. And sometimes it's not just an underlying tone, sometimes it's a full-blown emotion. And we want to look at which emotions are depleting us and which emotions are renewing us. My husband Ernst and I call these renewing emotions actually feelings because they are finer, they are a bit more subtle, they don't have that charge. So to make that difference, we call the heart feelings, not emotions, but feelings. But it's just a question of definition and wording. So what are depleting emotions? It's very important for your awareness to be in touch with what those are, and also not just think in the big blow of those emotions, but even as a little underlying tone that is a bit in the background, seem to not matter so much, but actually it's those underlying colored negative emotions that deplete a lot of our energy. These are emotions such as fear, frustration, impatience, anger, and they have a toxic feeling to it. And actually physiologically, that's part of the HeartMath science, scientific finding, is that they cause a lot of release of stress hormones. And not only stress hormones, but the HeartMath Institute has found out, which I still find so remarkable, that the moment we activate a negative emotion, there are about 1,400 chemical changes that are happening throughout the whole system. 1,400 changes. We can only imagine what that will all do to our sense of our body and our well-being and our capacity. So as we activate negative emotions, it has often the result in firing these stress hormones like cortisol, adrenaline, and it results in things like we see here on the slide: reduced muscle mass, brain cell death, impaired memory, accelerated aging, impaired mental function, and diminished performance, etc., etc. These are just a few points. In a more humanness considered way, actually, when we activate negative emotion, it simply means that we are shutting down our heart and we are no longer having access to our full human beingness. We become very reactive and become very separate, boxed into a mental, emotional conditioning. So self-awareness, as we said earlier, is the number one thing. If we are not aware of what's happening at any given moment in us and around us, we have no power to influence. So one of the most important steps is being really able to notice when your energy gets drained and to stop that energy drain in the moment, midstream life. That's when we can come in with those very simple 1-minute tools. And to increase resilience means that we expand our awareness and really take care of not having any unnecessary energy drains. In this context, it's important to look for a moment at the physiology of coherence and the optimal function of our system. Coherence is the center word for the HeartMath tools, the HeartMath science. We will touch on it only very, very shortly because for the purpose of this lecture and having 45 minutes to present this, it will just be a quick overlook. So coherence actually means an optimal state in which our heart, mind, and emotions are all aligned and in sync. We see here the photo of those boat. The rowers are all needing to be in complete synchronicity with moving forward. If they don't, then the boat wouldn't run quickly. And it's the same way with all our internal systems, that they need to all come into sync. So there is the immune system, the nervous system, and all the other systems, the digestive system, the brain, and everything starts to move in optimal functioning. It is a state of energetic coordination. And the HeartMath tools are there to rebuild this coherence moment to moment. We see here for just a short moment the autonomic nervous system, just to give you a little sense of this, and many of you might be very aware of what that all looks like. There is a sympathetic nervous system and the branch of the parasympathetic nervous system. And many of us, because of high levels of stress, run a lot in the sympathetic system, which is kind of the gas pedal of the nervous system. And we need that activity to pick us up for activity. But the downside is it needs to be regulated by the parasympathetic system. And if we don't do this enough, then the downside is that we come into a sympathetic overcharge. It can go as high as coming into a fight-flight system, and then we really continuously drain our batteries and fall into burnout and chronic fatigue. So the HeartMath tools are there to shift us from the sympathetic activity into the parasympathetic rest, digest, restore mode. A few words to the heart-brain communication. And please, if that interests you, it is so highly interesting. I highly recommend that you can connect with the HeartMath Institute online. They have beautiful videos, papers, everything about heart-brain communication, because that's your specialty. For our purpose today, it's just that actually the heart has its own complex nervous system. They call it the heart-brain, and it's something that wasn't always known to us. When we were at school, we didn't learn that. So it's important to know that there is a nervous system on its own with neurons, and it functions and can actually bring in intelligence and realizations that are other than when they come just from our mind in our brain. Another really remarkable information is that the heart sends far more information to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. That is still kind of remarkable for many people. When we give the immediate shift workshops, we have so often people being surprised, not knowing this, hardly can believe it. And yet it is a truth. Our heart gives more signals to the brain than the brain to the heart. And you can already imagine what that means for us is that if we access our heart's powers, then we can influence what the heart signals to the brain, which influences what the brain will access in our body, which kind of hormones, which kind of chemicals, which kind of bioelectrical signals. So as we connect with the power of our heart, we come into a very benevolent control of our whole system. A little slide just to show you the major findings of the HeartMath is also that they have this biofeedback instruments. You can even purchase them for your iPhone, where you breathe and do the techniques, and then you see how your heart variability, which is the little rhythm between each heartbeat, there's actually a different microseconds timing, and in that difference there is encoded information that goes from the heart to the brain. And here you see when we are in negative emotions such as frustration, irritation, impatience, or worry, or anything that has a negative charge, our curve here becomes very jaggedy, very kind of chaotic, And you can imagine what happens in the brain when these signals are going into the brain, giving signals of chaos. So the brain will perceive this and receive this as something of not safe, not balanced, and fire the according fight-flight signals and hormones of stress and support that deplete our system. On the other side, we have the coherence, heart rate variability, which moves in a beautiful round curve. And that happens the moment you relate to appreciation, calm, patience, or confidence. You will already notice that you feel better, and scientifically hooked into the technology, you see immediately how the curve of your heart rate variability is becoming round and balanced and in harmony. So we always find that that is a really interesting finding. There's much more to that. Feel most welcome to email me later, and I can send you some information where you can research more of this. Yeah, let's go to the heart focus breathing technique. I will invite my husband to do it with us so that it's a little bit more alive for you guys. This is my husband, Ernst. Hello. Thank you for coming and supporting this presentation. So we want now to do the heart focus breathing. And I invite you to do the same. Just sit for a moment. Maybe you want for a moment to ground your feet on the floor, which is more a body-oriented tool that I always include before I start the heart focus tools. But just allow yourself to feel your feet on the ground and notice what that is like. Will you please feel your feet on the floor, maybe also your butt on the chair, and just feel that grounding to gravity. Okay, our first heart focus tool is heart focus breathing. Focus your attention in the area of your heart. And who wants to can put a hand on your heart, which you don't need to, but it may support your connection to your heart area. Imagine your breath is flowing in and out of your heart or chest area, breathing a little slower and deeper than usual. And you could, for example, do 5 seconds in breath, 5 seconds out breath, but you can do it at any rhythm that feels comfortable and right for you. While you stay in the heart focus breathing, please, I show them a little bit the slides. You can do this technique with eyes open and with eyes closed. So for those of you that want to do it with eyes opened, we have here also the steps written. Sorry. And it is wonderful that this technique is also very possible to do with eyes open, because then while we sit with a client, while we are in a team meeting, while we are with a friend and need a bit of regulation, we can go to our heart and do the heart focus breathing. So I think you must have done by now 5 in and out breaths.
More than that.
More than that?
Yes.
Okay, let's put you back here on. Maybe share a few qualities that you noticed. Did you notice any shift?
Yeah, I noticed that my system came to calm from all the excitement of doing this recording with you. But then just right away, I noticed everything starts slowing down, and it's like a deepening. I'm much more deep and grounded.
Grounded, nice. Yeah, we have been actually preparing the technology of this, which is new to us. So there was a lot of excitement before. So you hear my husband, for example, felt more calm. And maybe register for a moment, what do you feel has changed in your interior? Maybe more calm, maybe a bit more spaciousness, maybe a little bit more aliveness, or just some connection to your heart, which many people feel as a warmth. Okay, let's share the screen again. So let's see what, as we bring our system into more coherence, what it actually does. I just read a few of them, but feel free to read them all. It reduces, of course, fatigue and exhaustion. As we are in more coherence, it will improve our family connections and social harmony, team harmony. It promotes the body's natural regenerative processes, which is so important. Our digestive system comes into more proper work, and our nervous system calms down, our sleep increases. And it also has us access intuitive intelligence, which is a very important tool to have on top of our mind's intelligence. So let's look for a moment at the depletion to renewal grid, which is a worksheet that the HeartMath Institute has designed and that I often use with my clients, coaching clients, HeartMath clients, or even therapy clients. You see here that we have 4 quadrants, and there's a vertical axis which goes from the sympathetic high charge in the upper level to the parasympathetic rest and digest relaxation mode on the lower part of this axis. And then in the horizontal line, we have on the left side the very depleting emotions, which increase cortisol and stress hormone adrenaline. Sorry, I'm German native, so sometimes my English pronunciation will not quite be right. And on the other side, you have DHEA, which is also called the youth hormone, and replenishes our system. So please get a sense here of how there are 4 quadrants. And you see here the battery charger again between urgent need to recharge, low energy, charged energy. So we want to look as a background for the HeartMath tools. We want to always have a little awareness of this grid. It's almost a bit like your weather report, like your inner weather report. And as we now go through what would be depleting emotions and what would be the renewing emotions here, let's have a look at what would be an example. So depleting emotions, you see here the left upper quadrant is are emotions that have a lot of charge, a lot of energy. So high energy, negative emotion, depleting emotions are anger, fear, rage, hate, desperation, frustration. And on the lower left quadrant, we have also depleting emotions, but they don't necessarily have a lot of charge. They don't spend a lot of obvious energy, and still they are very depleting, such as sadness, apathy, sorrow, regret, depression, resentment, etc. So the whole left side of this grid, of this weather report, is actually on the left side, it's pretty nasty weather. Nasty because it drains our system if we are longer than a few moments in it. It's not sustainable to live in these emotions ongoingly. On the right side of the quadrants, we have in the upper right quadrant, we have the renewing emotions that have a lot of energy, like joy, passion, courage, happiness, adventure. And yet, while they seem to spend a lot of energy, they're actually renewing our energy battery, because it's positive emotion, it's emotions that come straight from our heart and are connected to our heart. So it's important to know that even if they're highly energized, those emotions renew us, whereas the higher energy emotions on the left side deplete our system. And then the last quadrant, the lower right quadrant, are emotions that are positive, so they renew us. They have qualities of heart in it. And it's like peace, calm, serenity, tranquility, care, and ease. And you may know from your own experience that when you're in those feelings, while there is seemingly not much energy moving, we are actually in a beautiful flow. Our inner being is actually moving, and it's a harmonious flow of our energy inside out. We feel in sync, we feel wholesome, we feel whole. Whereas on the left side, where it's also very low energy, we know how it can drag us along and how it can really waste our energy if we are too long in these feelings. And we don't mean very natural feelings like grief or sadness after something had happened. So that's a distinction that we often make in our workshops. But here, just for the simplicity of things, I like you to become aware of those different emotions, depleting or renewing, and have always an awareness on where are you in this weather report. Then drama is something that really amplifies our energy drains. Yeah, drama means when we start to judge and criticize and have a lot of stories about each other or about ourselves. Many people actually have a lot of stories about themselves, a lot of inner critique, a lot of judgment, blame or shame. All this is very draining. So drama means stories we tell ourselves. So it's really good and balancing if we stay away from such stories. These include blame, our past histories, rehashing things, resignating, brooding, justifying, and negative projections on each other. So these are all the things when we notice we are engaged in them, it's nothing bad, it's just part of the human conditioning. But the moment we notice, we can become aware of it and shift into a more renewing emotion, as you saw on the grid. And for that, we have the heart mass tools, of which the first was now the heart focused breathing. Emotions and feelings that, on the other hand, create that coherence that we talked about are emotions like courage, honor, and dignity, confidence, appreciation and gratitude, kindness, care and love, compassion, tolerance, patience, enthusiasm, and joy. So let's do the second heart mass tool. And the goodness of them is also mainly that they're so simple, just take a minute, and are highly effective. So let's go to the quick coherence technique together. And Ernst, I invite you also to do it with me. And all the heart mass tools start with the heart focused breathing. So please feel also invited to now join along. Maybe you want to close your eyes for a moment. You can also leave your eyes open. Ernst will close his eyes. I will keep them open, but I will do it with you. So focus your attention in the area of your heart. And imagine your breath is flowing in and out of your heart or chest area.
So the same as the heart focus
breathing? It's the same as the heart focused breathing. Breathing a little slower and deeper than usual. And you might again inhale 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, whatever rhythm is comfortable for you. And now we move on to the second step of the quick coherence technique. Make a sincere attempt to experience a regenerative feeling, such as appreciation or care for someone or something in your life. So we invite you to re-experience that feeling that you have for someone you love, for a pet or a special place, maybe a vacation location where you were and felt really good. So just imagine the scenario or imagine that face and relate to it directly. And you will notice that it starts to activate a regenerative feeling in your heart.
Yes, I do.
You notice that? You want to share with us if you relate it to a person or to something more of nature, like a tree or a landscape?
A time, I remember the time that I was really grateful for. But as I did that, I noticed that a lot of just the heart focused breathing made me really calm and grounded. That this also brought a lot of upward energy as well.
Nice. So that's a nice example. Thank you, Ernst, for sharing this, that when we do the quick coherence technique, it's not just the calming effect of the breathing. We also really can pick our energy up and have this uplifting effect of these beautiful heart feelings that start to flow upwards into our whole system. Okay, so these are the two basic techniques from the Heart Mass Institute. There are many more. They are very easy to learn. You can go on the website of Heart Mass, and you can also email me or go into our website. We will put soon recordings of the Heart Mass tools on there, and you can email us. You can email me to receive the written version of these techniques. Okay, so quick coherence technique. Here you see again, first it's a heart focused breathing. And then the next step is a sincere attempt to experience a regenerative feeling, such as appreciation or care for someone or something in your life. And let it be very direct. The more direct, the better. So instead of imagining it up here in our mind, it's more like a direct connectivity to that something or someone. So let's say I do it with my dear dog, Neo, who passed away 2 years ago, but I still love him so dearly, and he has the most sweet, happy face. So as I now want to activate with my love for Neo, I go directly to his face. I don't go into my mind and imagine so much. It's more like a direct searching for him. And then there he is. And it makes me smile. And there is this inner glee coming up. And I feel it in my cheeks actually activating. So that's the effect that we want. Any of those effects we want, because that renews your whole energy system. Quick steps: heart focus breathing, and activate a positive or renewing feeling. So you see, these are very simple tools. Take a minute, not even, can do them anytime throughout the day, and you can wonderfully teach them to your clients so that they also access the heart's resources and build resilience through it. So now as an important point that is also specific to the HeartMath Institute is that we want to build and sustain resilience. And there are 3 steps. And as simple as they sound, they're actually quite profound, because it's so important and quite innovative for the HeartMath that we, as I said earlier, we don't just after the fact, when we are already highly stressed, bounce back and shift and reset, but we also prepare for. And this is such an important thing to do, to prepare, to set the tone for the day. Even you can in the morning first thing do 1 minute of quick coherence technique, and to be more composed before upcoming stressful events. You can shift and reset to a more coherent state while you are in a situation. Sometimes I do this while I'm sitting with clients, and let's say they share really big things that affect my nervous system quite a bit. And I know I need to be in a balanced system, so to provide them this co-regulation, I may just do a quick technique inside while I'm completely there and listening, just the heart focus breathing and relating to something or someone I love or care about or I'm grateful for. So that means shift reset, that you do it in the team meeting while you're with a client or in the middle of your conversation with someone you're close to. And sustain means that you will throughout the day practice, practice, practice. These tools have the highest benefit when you do them a lot, and mainly when you catch every little charge and negative emotion in the moment where it happens, and that you then shift and take a minute or even half a minute to not allow these draining, depleting emotions to empty your battery. If you do it during the day and sustain that resilience, you will build a completely new nervous system, you will retrain your brain, and you will teach your system that you're no longer interested in these highly draining, charged emotions and reactivities. Of course, there's another aspect to these coherence building tools. You can read a lot and watch a lot in the HeartMath Institute website, but for this nature of this lecture, it would go too far. But it has to do with a coherent field environment. So the moment one of a team goes into coherence, it affects others. And the more people do this, the better. So we foster then a whole field coherence and a harmonious team ambience, which allows us all to think more clearly, to be more productive, and to be more together and connected. So it can be very supportive if at the beginnings of your team meetings, you do a little heart focus tool to bring your whole team into a field coherence. Okay, let me see what comes now. Altogether, I want to share that by doing these resilience building tools, we establish more and more a new baseline. Yeah, we have different baselines in our brain, what our brain is used to, what our brain predicts that we want to do next. And the familiar neural patterns that run all the time in our brain, we tend to repeat them. These are the same kind of thoughts, the same kind of emotions, attitudes, behaviors. And it's often based on our conditioning as a reaction to wounding or as a reaction to something we don't like. So these automated responses are familiar and predictable. So now as each time you find yourself a bit in the rut of that, a bit in the grip of those depleting emotions, if each time you shift to something that is more renewing and coherent, your brain and nervous system starts to get to the new norm and builds this new norm and predicts already that you want something more calm, more energy efficient, more joyful or peaceful or even restful. And establishing a coherent baseline means then that instead of having these stress and anxiety pattern that inform our brain, mainly our amygdala in the brain, I don't want to say more to this again for the length of this lecture, but I'm sure many of you are aware of the amygdala, the threat detective system, and the emotional memory processing glands. And so when we are in stress and anxiety, our amygdala is often on a baseline of high levels of anxiety and predicts this already. So as we do the heart focused tools, we have the ability to shift the baseline of our amygdala back to normal, back to calm and rest. And you see this here nicely with this round renewing emotional curves, that tells your amygdala that you are safe, that you're okay, and that you would like it to fire more parasympathetic restoration and rest. I'm just for a moment pausing here. So now you have learned your first HeartMath tools, and I would like to still say something of a concept. I would like to share a concept with you about care versus overcare, because I find that is such a relevant concept for all of us that work in the healing field, in the healthcare, and as therapists and social workers. Care is such a basic foundational attitude that we all have in common. And Dr. Childress, the founder of the HeartMath Institute, came up with the terminology of care versus overcare. And let's see what he has to say, because I think it's a very helpful and interesting concept. So balanced care versus overcare. And as you hear already, balanced care is something really good, and overcare starts to become problematic. So there's often a very fine line between what is balanced care and the so-called overcare, but we can actually learn to distinguish them. When I first heard about these terms, I think it was about 10 years ago, I wasn't quite sure what the difference was, but over time, as you tune in and bring your awareness there, you will get a sense of where your care is genuinely flowing and where it starts to drain you. One aspect how you can feel it is when we are in overcare, we start to feel heavy and we start to be anxious about the thing we care about, or about the person we care about. We feel burned out, fatigued. We started giving up. We stop actually to care because it's so strenuous to all the time care, and we become apathic and simply stop caring. So let's say it would be a client that I specifically care for, which of course I always care for my clients very much, but I would not just care from my heart and be fully present, give my very best on every level in the sessions and afterwards reflecting or preparing for the session, but I would start to really carry their life path with me into my sleep or into my private life, and would start to worry and would start to be anxious or concerned about them. So you see again the difference between the flowing from the heart in a beautiful feeling of care, or the starting to become mental, emotional, conditioned in anxiety levels and concern and worry and ruminating and spinning and circling. All this would be an aspect of overcare. So the balanced care is what really renews us. A good aspect is just to tune in. Do you feel good about caring for this person, or for this something, or for the money on your account, or for your hobby? Is this something that makes you feel good, or actually do you start to feel just really unpleasant? If it doesn't feel good anymore, then it's not a flow from your heart, because everything that flows directly from our heart is a nurturing and nourishing feeling. So sometimes we feel that unpleasantness, but it can be very subtle and we are very used to it. So in our society, we also often think it's just normal that when I care for my children, for example, that it will always have a little sense of anxiety, a little stress, a little concern, a little rumination. Where are they? Why are they not home yet? Etc. This kind of preoccupation. Overcare has a lot to do with preoccupying oneself up to the degree of almost obsessing about something. So, but it can be also very subtle. We know it doesn't feel good, but we also don't change anything. So that's a time to do a shift and to access your heart qualities through a HeartMath tool, or to just directly go into your heart and feeling its warmth and its calm and its inner restedness. So remember, when you have a genuine care, it just flows, and when it starts to be draining, then you might have entered the overcare. You will all find your own way with that, because every person is different. What might be looking like overcare in one person might not be overcaring for another person. So just really pay attention to if you are renewed and nurtured by it, or if you start to be drained and stressed and burned out. Signs of overcare that you can scan for, that you can become aware of and notice, is that you start to have performance anxiety. I have that sometimes when I do a lecture like this, or presentation, or guide a workshop. When I'm just in my flow, inside out, then I just love to share with people and give from my heart and share everything I've learned. But when I start to be more really anxious about my performance and think of the result and have agendas, then I know I'm more entering my mind and my conditioned ways. So then it's good to shift back to the heart, apply a tool, and bring that balance in from where I love to flow and share with you right now. Perfectionism is never a sign of the heart. We can do our best, we can do a really good job, but we don't need to be perfect. As you saw in my English today, that I will not speak perfectly English, and that's just how it is as an immigrant from Germany, for me at least. You can have unrealistic expectations, just asking too much, demanding too much from others or from yourself, and a very high level critique of yourself. That's overcare as well. You can be emotionally attached to the outcome. So for example, in therapy, we can give our best and really provide everything we can for the healing of the client. But if we have an emotional attachment to the client needing to heal, then I would say we are in overcare and sometimes in big troubles. When we start to worry, anxiety, have anxiety and guilt, shame also, for sure a sign of overcare. There's not a caring flow from the heart anymore. When we start to be preoccupied, we talked about this already, when we have projections on people, and when we start to compare how others are caring, how others are doing their job. Comparing is often a death of our own true self. So it's time to shift back into our heart and just flow inside out. Subtler attitudes of overcare can be things like, well, somebody's got to do it, right? When you cannot let your work just have a boundary at some point, now you go home, but it's like somebody's got to do it. And often behind this are beliefs and attitudes of overcare. And then I can't submit this until it's perfect. It never works out, and I have a right to worry. So let's summarize a little bit what this presentation has brought. We have focused on that actually we have influence on how we think, feel, and behave. Whereas we might think that it's just our brain firing something, we know now that we can check our inner weather and shift from depleting emotion to renewing emotion, and that will influence how we think, how we feel, and from there how we behave and perceive the world and our surrounding. We can notice our own energy flow. Awareness is the first key to balancing this and regulating our emotions. We have the power to choose every moment what we activate. Remember, coherence is in our control. So we can every moment make the choice for a more coherent system, which will open our neocortex, our higher brain function, and our heart's qualities that make us actually human. And then we talked about building and sustaining resilience by applying these tools over and over throughout the day and not letting ourselves get away with charged, negative, reactive emotions for longer than a few moments. And by this, we build a new baseline, which is basically that we build resilience and capacity. Important was the prep, shift and reset and sustain, that we can prepare before events, even before the day, to come already from a hard place. We can, during events, shift and reset, and then we can also sustain by applying the tools over and over until it's just for us so natural to come from grounding and from our heart. If you would like any further information, please feel very welcome to go to our website, immediateshift.com. And you can also email me at info@immediateshift.com. And I'd be so happy to answer questions or provide you with some worksheets or tools written down or connect you to websites. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope that you got a first sense about the power of our heart and building resilience through our heart from the inside out. I wish you all still a good conference, and I will now be available for questions.